Hey guys, welcome to a brand new video here on the Pladly Plus channel. Today we're going to be ranking all of the FNAF games. I'm just going to kind of go gut feeling, having played most of these games. But on that note, let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, that's like half the tier list I haven't played yet. So I have technically played Help Wanted, but I don't have a VR setup, and I feel like it's not fair to judge that game unless I've played it the way it's intended, which is with a VR headset. Now, having said that, we still have all these games to talk about here at the bottom. Let's go ahead and start with FNAF 1. It's hard to argue against S tier for this one. It's very good. My biggest issue with the first game is the length of the nights. When I was playing through it for the first time, like you get to like 5 a.m. on the 5th night, and then you die. You have to spend another like 6-7 minutes just to beat that night. The length of the nights could have used work, and in later games it did get better. The nights were a bit shorter. Other than that, it's really good. It gets a little bit repetitious on the later nights. It gets very monotonous, I feel like, when you have the pattern down that you have to kind of repeat to get through the night. I'm just going to give FNAF 1 S. I think it's definitely hard to beat the first game. On that note, second game, FNAF 2 isn't bad. I have fond memories of it. I enjoy it to a certain extent, but it's a little bit too over the top and not really that scary. You get kind of easily overwhelmed by all of the animatronics. You have the new ones, the old ones, the puppet, all the craziness there. I don't really replay that one as much. It's not really... I think the first few nights are fun. There's a fun balance. But when you get into like the later nights and then the custom night where you crank up the difficulty, it's just rough. It's just really rough and it's not very fun. So a lot of people love FNAF 2. A lot of people hate FNAF 2. I'm just gonna say B. It's good. Okay, I'm being negative. The storyline kind of really started to get fleshed out in 2. We started to learn more about the backstory. The first game hinted at it. The second game really goes into... It's still pretty vague on the story, but there's some good story elements there. That's why I'm not gonna give it a C or anything. It does have a really good story elements. I like the way that the mini games kind of hint at the story, but show you a little bit more detail. There was enough mystery there to get people theorizing. Very good. Very good game. It's just not one of my favorites, so it's gonna stay in B, and that's that. FNAF 3, I'm trying to think here. Am I allowed to put this in S? I don't think I'm allowed to put this in S. It's gonna go in S. There's something about FNAF 3. So I think the second game does really well with the story, but I think the third game... I guess I'm more interested in the storytelling of the games. I'm not really as interested in the gameplay. I'm looking at these as more of like a story perspective. I'm not really one of those like hardcore like, oh, I got a 1020 mode, I'm gonna beat it. Blah. I'm not really like that. I just like the FNAF games mostly for like the story elements that they introduce. And FNAF 3 has a incredible story. You've got, obviously, it's set kind of in the future of the series, and then you've got kind of trying to figure out, like, if you don't understand exactly what Springtrap is at first, I think a lot of people were really confused as to what he was. And if you have to listen so carefully to the phone guy, and it's all there. Like, the fact that you've got these suits that were animatronic and suit, and that there's certain things that, like, when you're wearing the costume, this is what you do. But then when the costume's in, like, robot mode, it follows sound. All of these hints, right? It's so well done. And then, of course, like, the end of night mini games are really interesting, seeing, like, oh, he's tearing these robots apart. He's the purple man. I sound like a crazy person right now. And not even mentioning how you get the good ending in the game, which is super complicated and confusing, but leads to one of the best endings in the FNAF series. Overall, FNAF 3 I think is great, and I will die on that hill. It is probably personally my favorite game in the series. I think the gameplay is solid too. I think the office segments are actually really fun. I get as stressed out during FNAF 3 as I did during FNAF 2. Like, they're the same levels of stress. It's different kind of stress because you're managing different things. But having to manage all of your ventilation cameras, all that, you're trying to manage all that, it is very stressful. But yeah, I'm going to leave FNAF 3 in the S tier. I'm not going to put it ahead of FNAF 1. I'm thinking about it, but I'm just going to Wait, this is a personal list. I can do whatever I want. I keep forgetting. Okay, yeah, FNAF 3, best FNAF game. I can do whatever I want. It's my tier list. Okay, so FNAF 4, I kind of struggle with. On one hand, I do think it's very intense and it's very scary. It definitely got me a few times. So I do think it's effective. I think it's flawed. I think it has some issues. I think the animatronic designs are not that scary. They're very over the top. And the reason that I find the game scary is because it makes you listen so closely. You kind of go through this phase of like kind of second guessing yourself, like, oh, am I hearing the breathing? Am I hearing footsteps? What am I hearing at the doors? But I think the animatronic designs themselves are not very good. I'm not a huge fan of the Nightmare animatronic designs. I think they're trying too hard to be scary. I think Springtrap's design is scarier because of more of the implication of like what Springtrap is. He is a fusion of a man and a robot, and the Nightmare animatronics are just like your nightmares. Ooh, scary. They're not real. And I think there's something much scarier about the animatronics in the first 3 games versus the Nightmare animatronics, because the Nightmare animatronics are not real. That's just my opinion. Well, it's got to be ahead of FNAF 2, so it's either top of B or A. It's, The storyline's interesting too, since I tend to judge these games based on the story. I do really like the storyline in FNAF 4. The lead up to the party is interesting. The story is so confusing, though. It's basically just split the community in so many ways of what people think FNAF 4 is trying to say and what it's talking about and who you play as during the nighttime segments. It's a well-told story. It's very interesting. I'll just say A. We'll say A for now. Maybe I'll change it. I don't know. It's definitely not as good as 3 and 1, but it's not as bad as 2. It's better than 2. I do really like the gameplay loop in FNAF 4. FNAF World. Oh boy. Oh. I love FNAF World. It's so fun. It's such a fun game. It's not good. It's not great. It's not like the best game ever made, but I have a lot of fun with FNAF World. There it is. I have so much fun with FNAF World. It's probably my most played game in the series just because it's not scary. It's just kind of a very therapeutic game to play. I would definitely put it ahead of 2, but I wouldn't say it's like an A tier game. The storyline is so confusing, doesn't make any sense, but the gameplay more than makes up for it. It's just a fun RPG. It's simple. And then you've got the Halloween DLC, which adds all the mini games. That's so fun. That's such a fun game. It's so good. FNAF World's good. All right, sister location. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. Oh, I want to put it in S. They can't all be S games though, right? I'm gonna get some hate for this. So we're gonna bump FNAF 1. I don't want to give all the. Here's the thing. I don't want to give all the games on my tier list. My personal opinion, by the way. I don't want to give them all S tier. So I'm gonna say FNAF 1. I still adore FNAF 1. It's basically between S and A. It's between the best and the second best. I'm gonna put sister location up top next to FNAF 3. Here's why. It is the best story. It is the best fully contained story in the FNAF series. I love the voice acting adds such an interesting layer. I've seen people complain that it's not replayable enough, which it does have the custom night, so that's kind of the replayability factor would be the custom night. But the story's so good. You know, the gameplay segments I think are fun enough. They're fun, simple mini games, and I enjoy how different each night is. And I just really enjoy the story being told and just watching the community try to piece these different things together with the story, how you see this thing doesn't make sense, what is this talking about? But then when you kind of realize that the whole story is there, it's just the pieces, you got to put them together. And it's very simple at the end of the day. But just, I love seeing the story split up the way Scott Cawthon does in these games, specifically in Sister Location. I love that, how he splits the story bits apart. I'm saying S tier. I'm going to stick with it. It's a subversive, different take on FNAF. It vastly changed the series in so many positive ways, in my opinion. I can do whatever I want. It's my tier list. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. Oh, I love this game. But I also hate it. I hate the nighttime segments so much. The nighttime segments are atrocious, and difficult. I still haven't beaten it. It's one of the games that I have here that I have not beaten. I haven't even talked about, okay, let's get AR out of the way. This game is terrible, F tier. I'm not even gonna talk about that game. I just remembered I was gonna get that out of the way earlier. There it is, F tier, FNAF AR. It's terrible. I played it when it first came out. I love the concept, but it's so stupid. The microtransactions, it's gone now. You can't even play it now. Bad game, F tier. All right, back to Pizzeria Simulator. I love the pizzeria segment. You get 10 play tokens. You can deck out your pizzeria. I love that. Great fun. I wish that itself I wish there was a mode just for that where you didn't have to play the nighttime segments. I would love that. So that's separated by itself. The pizzeria segment where you're building your pizzeria, you're playing mini games. Awesome, fantastic, love it. The salvage segments where you are testing the animatronics and you try to salvage them for as much money as you can get without them jump scaring you. Awesome, incredible, very, very good. But then the nighttime segments, or I guess daytime, I don't even know if it takes place at night technically. The office segment, we'll call it that, where you have to order everything and do all the repairs and stuff. I hate it so much. In trying to play it, I think I spent about 2 hours on the fourth nighttime segment, whatever, office segment. And I'm having such a hard time with it. And it's so confusing. I've watched videos trying to explain how to beat that. And it just weighs down the experience. It really does. It's not like super intuitive. It doesn't make sense. I can make sense of the other games. The gameplay loop for the first 5 games makes perfect sense. But that office segment, I have such a hard time with. It's so confusing and not very good. So I feel good about that one. I feel good. Putting it below FNAF 2. And I want to reiterate, B tier is not bad. B does not stand for bad. I really do think if it was just the pizzeria segments, I would love it way more if there was like its own dedicated mode where I could just play that. But yeah, I gotta put it bottom of B. Ultimate Custom Night, I have played. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. I don't have a lot of fun as much as I've played, and maybe I'll change my mind when I actually fully sit down and try to complete it, which I'm going to try to do at some point. Right now, I would just say C. It's kind of like, it's a good like kind of epilogue to the storyline. I think that's fine. Yeah, we'll leave it in C. I think the first time I played Security Breach, I gave it like a 5 or 6 out of 10. That was my first playthrough, and I needed a lot of help through the playthrough. I did not understand where to go. And a lot of other people didn't either. The game was just very poorly explained in a lot of areas. There were a lot of issues behind the scenes, it sounded like. A lot of people really seemed to struggle with what to do in the game. A lot of people really seemed to struggle with that. So first playthrough, I would have given it like a 5 or 6 out of 10. Second playthrough, when I actually knew what I had to do, I had some fun with it. I think repeat playthroughs of Security Breach make it more fun. And I'm not willing to say it's a good game. I think we'll say top of B. I think Security Breach is a lot of fun if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's confusing. So first playthrough, if we're going off of the first playthrough, I'd put it like very bottom of C, maybe top of F, just not good. But having played it through a couple more times and having understood how the game works, and I have a lot of fun with it now. If I pick it up and play it again, it's fun. I definitely give it a B now. And finally, last and not least, the best thing Steel Wool has currently done with the FNAF series is Ruin. I think Ruin, it is technically DLC for Security Breach, but it is completely its own experience, and it is very good. I'm a huge fan of Ruin. I had a lot of fun playing Ruin. It was very linear. I enjoyed the story. Cassie was an interesting character. I still don't totally understand what her deal is. Apparently there's more about her in Help 1 and 2. I haven't played that yet. It's definitely scarier than Security Breach. It has a lot of moments that are very tense. You feel kind of scared of. I'd put it ahead of 4. Yeah. Okay, that's... If anyone sees this, I don't have like any subscribers on the channel I'm posting this on, but if anybody sees this, they're gonna hate me. So let's see. So S tier, we have FNAF 3 and Sister Location. A tier, FNAF 1, Ruin, FNAF 4. B tier, Security Breach, FNAF World, FNAF 2. This looks about how I feel. So yeah, that's gonna do it for my FNAF tier list. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Really, I want to know what you think, because maybe I'm wrong about half these games. This is just how I feel. Please let me know if you agree or if you disagree. And that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you for watching.